Join me on a positive, non-partisan, and uniquely thought-provoking journey. Our independent, advertising-free, non-commercial show brings you the people and places creating tomorrow's solutions today. Radically different programming for radically different times. We call it the place where the people who say it can't be done take a back seat to the people who are doing it. It's the Laura Flanders Show every week. Welcome.
Wednesdays at 6 p.m. You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Max Durbus Realtors has been providing commercial and industrial real estate services to its clients for nearly 100 years. Since 1934, Max Durbus has been locally owned and operated throughout the greater New Orleans area, including the North Shore, Hammond, and even the Mississippi Gulf Coast and beyond. We focus on your commercial real estate needs so you don't have to. More information is available at 504-733-4555.
This is New Orleans. You've been to games. You've seen the hard hits, felt the ground shake. You've heard the fans erupt, and you've watched the team answer. You've seen sports in the city, but until you see NOLA Gold, you ain't seen a thing.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I'm your host, Scott Alexander, and you know what time of year it is. It's March Madness time, but we're going to start with the NBA because your New Orleans Pelicans are kicking butt. That's a real team we have now. This is a team that, as it's formulated now, with no more injuries, this team could win the NBA championship. I'm telling you right now, I was in Atlanta. I have the credential right here. I want to thank all my friends in Atlanta. I used to produce them for 15 years. Well, I went to the game with my kids when I was up there this weekend, and they beat the hell out of the Hawks. I still like the Hawks. I mean, that's a team I worked around for a long time, but this Pelicans team is special, and they're fun to watch. That guy on the left, Zion Williamson, has become the glue to this team. Obviously, he's the star, but it's guys like Trey Murphy. I mean, this guy, Trey Murphy, had 20 points in the first half. In the first 10, 11 minutes he played, he was on fire, and that's what he's been doing for the last several games. And when he's clicking like that with CJ, and you see Zion there, and of course Brandon Ingram, they're all buying in. It's going to be special. They have a fifth four-game win streak of the season. They've won 4 in a row. It's the longest streak in the NBA right now. And if they win tomorrow at Cleveland, first Cleveland, they'll have their first 5-game win streak of the season. They're clicking at the right time. Only about 17, 18 games to go. They're rolling, and they're in the 5 spot. If they beat LA on Friday, look out. They might even get that home court advantage for the first round and take over that seed from the Clippers. Moving on, LSU basketball, got to give them kudos. They were losing in the first half to Missouri, a team that was 0-17 in conference, but they were playing well against the Tigers. But LSU came back and won that game, and the reason that's big, because it puts them at 9-9 in the conference. And that is a big step from where they were when Matt McMahon took over the job at 315. Huge job by Matt, and they are going to be the 8th seed in the SEC tournament, and they play Mississippi State on Friday. Mississippi State is one of the teams that they don't match up very well with. They got throttled by the Bulldogs of Mississippi State just a few weeks ago in the midst. But LSU's won 6 out of 8. They finished the season strong and with some big wins in there. And now moving forward, Tulane is playing in the American Athletic Conference tournament, and that is going to be, they have a Thursday game, and they play North Texas. Also, the Southland. Hey, Nichols is still in it. Will Wade's still in it. UNO upset Southeastern in the first game, and they almost got it done in game 2, but they fell to Lamar. That guy, Jordan Johnson, scored 34 on Sunday. He's a baller. And moving forward, how about the Tulane women's? This team has won. They won 2 in a row in the tournament, and they almost got the 3rd one as a team that didn't do great in the regular season. They lost in overtime to Temple. But how about LSU women's? We know what happened on Sunday. They got to the finals. There was a lot of controversy, a little pushing and shoving, and girls were getting ejected in that game. No suspensions moving forward. They're going to be just fine in the NCAA tournament coming up. They'll be a 2 seed probably. NFL. Mike Cousins, we got to talk about Kirk Cousins. He is going to the Atlanta Falcons, this Viking quarterback and formerly of the Redskins football team Commanders group. He is going to the Falcons, and that makes him a legitimate contender. Arthur blank check. He gave him $180 million, a 35-year-old, $100 million guaranteed, $45 million a year. Hey, life's nice, isn't it? Hey, moving forward, how about Russ going to the Steelers? Russ, you see him right there. Wilson, and of course Saquon Barkley staying in the division to go for the Giants to the Eagles. Hey, LSU softball, 22-0. Congrats. Best start ever. They're number 2 in the country. And Nola Gold, congrats to them. Major League Rugby, they won their 2nd in a row. It's 2-0 start to the season. Moving forward, we've got a great show. Ty Thompson, 5-star quarterback coming from Tulane. He was an Oregon transfer. And also John Brady, he cut the nets down. He's going to talk all about the Tigers in the SEC tournament. Next, right here on Primetime Sports.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
Welcome back to Primetime Sports. I'm doing this with my hands because I love basketball season, and now we're into March. I cannot wait. The conference tournaments are already playing, the smaller conferences. The ACC starts today. The SEC will kick it off tomorrow, and LSU will start their tournament first game. It's going to be noon on Thursday in Nashville. They play the Mississippi State Bulldogs, who trucked them just a few weeks ago at home. Right in the middle of their nice little run, they were 4 out of 5, and that was the one loss. But we have the man who's been to the Final Four. He's also been calling their games with Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers. So he right here, John Brady. He's been our basketball analyst before. He came 15 times one year because we talk hoops every week. But he's been a little more scarce these days. He's getting big time again, and here he is, John Brady. What's up, my friend?
How you doing, baby? That was
doing fantastic. That was fun. That was our last hurrah for a while since you go off to Florida now after the season. We don't get to see you, so thanks for making the time to go to dinner last night.
Oh, that was a lot of fun. Always good to be with you. You know that.
And then Coach Gio, we got to give him a shout out. What a great dude. Yeah. And then Dickie made a surprise appearance. I mean, and your daughter.
Yeah,
that was good times.
The one and only Brittany Brady.
That's right. I told her we'd get her in there. That's a nice plug. Hey, this is our time of year, right? I mean, listen, this made you famous. Without Daryl's shot, we know who we're talking about. When he hit that shot against Texas A&M, put you in the Sweet 16, and then you took care of Duke and you took care of Texas. Do you still think about that ever? Because I know you get reminded of it.
I tell people all the time that segment right there, that drive, that run, whatever you want to call it, changed my life.
Certainly.
I mean, it people still remember that today, and I have people tell me it's the best tournament situation, the best game they've ever seen when we beat Duke for LSU to play in basketball. So Dale had a bunch, we had a couple, and I'm just glad to be in the conversation sometimes.
There you are right there. I was in that stadium, and I think I got reminded this weekend because I went back home to Atlanta, and a lot of friends say, hey, I was there. I saw you shaking hands down there. I mean, you made a lot of us proud. I mean, I got some points with all our friends in Atlanta because we kept moving.
The timing of it was great too. It was coming off Katrina. It was the spring. Katrina hit in August, and in the spring we go to the Final Four, and it kind of gave Louisiana something to really cheer about and be proud of.
People forget that because they always equate Katrina with 05 and you obviously with 06. But we talked about it last night because Coach Gio Orlando was talking about how hard it was to get his Loyola program in his first year on track with Katrina. And then I was starting to think, I said, wait, that's actually the year you won, John.
That's right. So we won the league outright.
Right.
And then we go to the Final Four, and Florida won the national championship. We both went to the Final Four, but we won the league outright over Florida. They finished second. So it was a special year with a special group of guys.
Really, I mean, you had that whole Baton Rouge group. I know you had a St. Martinville, but everybody was within about a 60-mile radius, which made it even a little more special, I think. But one last thing on that, because I've asked you this off camera, but never on camera, I don't think. Did the Stromae Swift team beat this team? Because that team that went to the Sweet 16, that was the number 2 guy coming out of the country in high school. You know, Tyrus Thomas got picked 4th in the draft, but he was no big prospect, right? But that team was special. This team had, you know, some unity. Which team would have figured that one out?
That's a tough one, man. I think it'd be close, but I think the 2000 team at one time was the best team in the country. I mean, we rolled off about 8 straight SEC wins, and 4 of them were by 20-plus points. Right. 2 of those 4 were on the road. So I think that team may have been a little bit better, but it really doesn't matter now. Doesn't matter. Certainly doesn't. But both of those teams, one of the reasons they won games was they were both talented, but they both had tremendous amount of character and competitive spirit, and that sometimes that's a difference. Talent's one thing, but when you have some character with it and you have a competitive nature that drives you, that's what those 2 teams really had in common. I mean, think about this. It's 2006. The least heralded member of that starting 5 is still in the NBA in 2024. That, to me, is remarkable. 18 years later, Garrett Temple is still playing the NBA, and he's not going to be the leader of the team, but he's a leader of the locker room wherever he goes because he is so respected and looked up to. Did you ever see that coming from him when you had him as a young kid? I never saw that coming. I didn't think he was going to be a legitimate pro, but he's been able to do it. He took a strange route to get there. Right, and so. But he's done it with character, toughness, team player, encouraging in the locker room, and some of those NBA teams, they need a lot of that. They certainly do. And that's why he's survived that long in the league. He's good enough, but he'll be a front office guy if he wants to, or whatever he wants to do. He could be the governor. I mean, I remember meeting that kid in 10th grade. Walk-ons had just kind of recently opened, and I was in town from Atlanta, went to a game, and Collis Jr., I guess, you know, got the godfather of LSU basketball right now. Yeah. He introduced me as his son. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I would not have thought 25 years later, whatever it was, 22 years later, he'd still be. And I think it still matters today if you have a championship team. You've got to have some character guys on that team that are tough and want to compete. Let's talk about what's happening right now. I think it's a huge accomplishment what Matt McMahon did. Coming off a team that was a 3-15 last year in conference, or 2-16, one of the two. Yeah. Not good. But the fact is, he had no talent last year. He inherited an entire new team. He's got some this year, not great talent. And I think he's doing a lot with smoke and mirrors, and whatever it takes, you're going 9-9. Jordan Wright's a legitimate ball player. Yeah. I think that's the leader of this team. But how would you assess it since you've watched it every step of the way the last 2 years? Well, they've gotten better. Yeah. And Coach McMahon has stayed the course with what he believes in, and I think that's the key to any good coach. You don't have to do what everybody else does. A lot of ways to coach it. There's a lot of ways to win it, and he has stayed the course on what he believes in. And we lost some close games, but we've won some close games too here lately, so it's kind of balanced itself out. But for where this team was when we lost to Nicholls State at home, and to finish 9-9 in a very good SEC conference, to be 9-9 and have an opportunity to be in the conversation about going to a postseason, the NIT. Yeah. I think it's a great improvement from where we were a year ago, and that's how you judge the program. We weren't going to all of a sudden win the league, but from go to 3 wins in the league to 9-9 in the league. And a good SEC this year. You got 6 teams legitimately could make a real run to at least the Sweet 16 and Final Four. And that team, you can see it in how they play now. They're more confident. We rebounded better. We're defending a lot better. We're scoring the ball better than we did early in the year. Hey, it's just an improvement, and that's what I like to see. I got to make a quick PSA, public service announcement to all my friends in Thibodaux. Hey, just because you said they beat you, you're a good team. We know that. But LSU should be beating the Thibodauxs, the Nicholls of the world. But Nicholls is still playing right now, as of today at this taping, in the Southland tournament. And by the way, speaking of the other team in that conference, I got to say it because a friend of mine asked me yesterday, I wonder who that might be, if McNeese, with former coach Will Wade, was to play somehow, if they lost in the Southland and somehow LSU could get to the NIT, how would that game go? You know both coaches well. You've kind of introduced them a little bit, both McMahon and Will Wade, into the LSU family in a way, right? Right. So how would that go? How would it go? I don't know how it would go. It'd be an interesting game, correct? It would be a very interesting game, but I hope it doesn't take place.
Right.
I don't want to see that happen.
It's a no-win situation.
I did call Will last week, and I told him, do me one favor. Win your conference tournament. Go to NCAA.
Right.
We don't want to play each other. I don't want to sit through that.
Okay, so LSU plays Mississippi State this week. And, and it was interesting because that run LSU had to start. They were 3-7 in conference, and they finished 9-9. 6 out of the last 8, so that's improvement. But 2 of those wins in that first couple were against number 11 South Carolina, and then they had the tip-in against Kentucky. Great win. But they lost to Mississippi State, a very solid team, a team that's very rugged, and they got some scores too, and they need to. They got beat pretty bad. Second half, it kind of got away from them. That's the first game on Thursday at noon. They play in the tournament. It could be a one-and-done situation, but if they win, the winner goes to play Tennessee. What do you think how this game will go?
Well, matchups are important, and how we match up with other teams is important. We don't match up with Mississippi State really well. They're big and strong on the front line. They've got some depth. Their Achilles heel is they don't shoot the ball very well, but they shot it well against us. The freshman Hubbard, the last 4 or 5 games, has been player of the week in the SEC. He had 27 against us in Baton Rouge. He's been really consistent the last 4 or 5, gives them perimeter scoring that they didn't have. But they rebounded well, they defend well. Hubbard has given them another edge offensively. So I think it's going to be a difficult game for LSU to play. Now, if we do win that game and play Tennessee, I think if we win that game and A&M plays Ole Miss again, and if A&M beats Ole Miss, I think A&M gets to the NCAA tournament. And with the way the NIT is, they can pick the next 2 highest-rated teams in the league, which would be us and Ole Miss, in terms of their net. And if we can beat Mississippi State, and A&M beats Ole Miss, I think we go to NIT.
So that's how it works. I mean, let's say this: Ole Miss and LSU are on different trajectories right now. Ole Miss is going down after a great start to the season. LSU is ascending. So is it all computerized now? It used to be they just picked it and say, hey, so it's the next 2. That's how it works. You can only take the next 2.
The next 2, regardless of the record. It could be a losing record in the league, and they still take them. It's the net, and Ole Miss got way ahead of us in the net early on. They had some good wins, and we were way down here, and we haven't even caught them yet in terms of that.
I didn't realize that. Okay, thanks.
And that's how the NIT is going to work now. No longer do they pick a lower level conference winner that got beat in their conference tournament. That used to be an automatic. They did away with that because I think they want bigger schools to play against each other, to draw, make more money. You know how it is.
Bring the fans in, right? I mean, honestly, that's what it's about. I mean, you got Canisius against LSU. Nobody's going to go to that game. But if you got a Power 5 team from another conference, that's attractive. I might go up to Baton Rouge for that one, Coach.
Well, we'll see. we'll see if we can use our arena, because the women are going to host the first 2 games of their
that's
thing.
right. I forgot about that too.
It'll be a scheduling situation with the arena, whether if we do go to the NIT, whether we play at home or travel, based on when the women play.
Hey, the women made the state proud last year. I know you don't call those games, but I just want to say, the women's basketball team, do you think Kim Mulkey's dominant personality, and plus, I guess she's got 4 national championships now, right? 3 at Baylor and 1 here. I mean, what was that like for Matt? Because they both came in like a year apart, I believe, and she's such a dominant personality, and now the women's is so popular. How would that, as a coach, affect you? And I know because usually the men's team is the one that's the one they're looking at, unless you're at a place like Tennessee or certainly UConn. Although UConn, they win both sides. But the fact is would that be weird for you?
Well, when I was there, the women went to 3 or 4 straight Final Fours, and we both went to the Final Four in the same year.
They went 4 straight, actually.
So they were good, and we had a nice little run there. We were pretty good, but to be honest with you.
But Kim versus Pokey's different. Kim's naturally a personality. Pokey was just kind of coaching, taking Gunner's place, and she did a great job. But
I think neither one of them has anything to do with the other. Whether the women win or women lose has nothing to do with the progression of the men's program. They're both at different places.
I understand.
They're both at different places.
They pack in the gym is what I'm saying. I mean, that's got to be straight.
Well, you win in the men, you'll pack the gym too. So I wanted the women to win, but I was never bothered by whether they won or lost, because it had nothing to do with the path we were on. And I think it's got to be the same way with Matt.
It's not bothered. The question was really just about Kim herself, because it's rare you get a coach that's like that powerful, you know, and she's got a presence, you know.
What she does, she gets the LSU name out there.
Right on.
Because she's going to attract attention. Her team wins the national championship, and Kim Mulkey, whether you like her or not, or agree with some of the things she does, or you don't, it's still going to bring attention to LSU in some way or fashion or form, and I think that's all positive. Because, you know, all the players you're recruiting are watching that.
I love the way she coaches basketball. I know that. She gets W's on the board.
She
brings some good players in. Let's talk about the SEC right now as a whole, because they're getting notoriety. It's not like I say ever, but, you know, usually they call it a football conference, as you know, and they have some good teams scattered here and there. They got 6 teams that, honestly, I wasn't going to include Florida, South Carolina in this for a while, but I've seen much stranger things happen with teams making runs to the Final Four. Florida Atlantic last year, of course, San Diego State, they went. But those first 4 are powerful teams. Let's go with this. Tennessee, Auburn, Alabama, Kentucky. I think they can beat anybody any given day. And the other 2, Florida and South Carolina, on the right conditions, they can do it. So let's just talk with the cream of the crop in your mind. And I'm assuming that's Tennessee. I don't know who you would have in there, but who?
Well, I like Tennessee first. I like Kentucky now second, what they've done the last couple of weeks. I like Alabama over Auburn a little bit because I think they can shoot it better. And I think they both defend okay. But I think Alabama scores it a little bit easier than Auburn. So I got Auburn 4th in that group. But
I put Auburn 4th for one reason. They're so drastically different home and road, and I think they have at home they're unbelievable. You know, it's neutral courts. They can still take a run. Like we saw them do it to the Final Four, and they really should have almost gotten to the finals that year against Virginia. But
well, the Final Four team that Bruce coached, that Pearl coached, I told him at the SEC meetings the next year, it's the best defensive team I've ever seen you have.
Wow.
And I still think teams that go deep in that tournament are very good on the defensive end. You got to score baskets. And that's why Alabama, to me, similar to what you said with Auburn, Alabama on the road, they shoot 28 threes a game.
Yeah.
And sometimes on the road, you don't shoot it as good as you shoot it at home. And so you've got to rely on defending it and rebounding it to really carry you in close games. And I think the defense, and as deeper you go in the tournament, people figure out what you're going to do offensively, and you better be able to guard it too, because those close games in the 60s and 70s, they don't get up in the 90s when you get into that Elite 8 or Sweet 16.
10 games in over 100. I mean, they had a streak. Mark Sears. I mean, let's talk some individual guys. Mark Sears is special. Even when a game I watched the whole game when they got trucked by Florida on the road, but Sears was still doing his thing. He was the only guy that was really producing for him. But what makes him such a good player?
Well, his penetration. You know, when you don't have a closely guarded rule, and you have a great point guard that can come off a ball screen and he can dribble it like Curly Neal did for the Harlem Globetrotters. The offense has the advantage because one defender can't stay in front of a guy if he can just dribble it. And that's what Sears does. He penetrates, he kicks, he sees the open man, he can make a three. Defense comes at him, he can shot fake and go by somebody. He's a load to guard, and I think anytime a team advances in the tournament, they have a point guard that's pretty good, and he's the best point guard outside of Ziegler at Tennessee. Connect's the best player in the league.
Yeah, we're going to get to him in a second.
Okay,
but that was my segue. Was if it wasn't for this guy named Dalton Connect, I think Sears would be my vote for the MVP of the conference. Now, I think most people now realize it's Dalton Connect, who transfers from Northern Colorado. Ain't America great, right? In the old days, that guy might not have ever been in the SEC because he might not want to sit out a year. That's how things have changed, and all of a sudden you see these guys that might not have been good enough for whatever reason go to a smaller school. They come in, and this guy not only starts, not only produces, but he becomes the consensus player of the year. Yeah,
well, I think you look at his background. He grew five or so inches.
Helps.
Yeah, between his senior year in high school into his junior year in college, and then he developed along the way. He was one of those rare kind of guys that just comes along like that, and all of a sudden, boom, where did he come from?
What makes him special, though?
He can score it. He's got skill. He learned the skill level when he was smaller as a guard.
Yeah, like Anthony Davis when he was small and he grew 10
inches. Yeah, and he grew up. Now he's got the skill level. Plus he's got one of the prettiest jump shots I've ever seen in the league in the last 7 or 8 years.
That's nice.
And he's clutch, tough, got some character about him. I think he's a top 5, top 6 pick in the NBA draft.
Kentucky, you kind of touched on it, but watching Shepard and Dillingham and Reeves, I mean, these guys are growing up before our eyes. And I know LSU beat them on the road in a pretty passionate environment. But like you said, these last 2-3 weeks, just watching them go. These young guys they got keep getting older, and now they're becoming darlings. When I watch the post-game shows on the SEC and then like that network and also ESPN, they're one of the hot picks right now.
Yeah, they're getting good play around the goal. Used to they had to rely on their guard play, as you mentioned, and those 3 guys are really good. But now they're getting some play under the basket, and I think that's the key. This guy,
he's been special man, the last few weeks. I've watched him.
It's unbelievable. They got him in a first-round draft pick as a freshman, and Dillingham's coming off the bench.
That's Jeff's his dad, right?
Yeah, Jeff's his dad.
Yeah, I did the '96 SEC tournament. Jeff was the star of that team.
Yeah. So Kentucky's really good, and I think if you advance in the tournament, you got to have good guard play, and that's why I like Florida. Florida's guards aren't quite as good as Kentucky's, but I think Florida guards are really good, and I think they have a chance to win a game or two in the NCAA tournament as well.
Is it Walter Clayton? Is that his name, Clayton?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Walter Clayton Jr. Okay. That dude can take over a game, and that's why I now put them as a team that could make a possible run, at least to maybe the 8. It'd have to be a certain circumstance, but I was not giving them those kind of kudos or credit a month ago. And the more I watched them, I said, this team is well coached.
But I think Tennessee has the best balance of offense and defense.
Without question.
And I think they're extremely well coached. Barnes knows what he's doing, but I think they have the best balance. So I think, therefore, they have the best chance to advance farther than any other team in the league.
Coach, you haven't been on as much as in the past because we're getting bigger. We're getting bigger. You're getting smaller, but we had you sharing double bill last time you were here with old Brock Cantro. He told me he'd pay me a little bit if I threw another name in there for him. And you're doing a lot of good things at the Baton Rouge Community College.
JUCO, they did win the first round of the playoffs.
Congrats
we got beat the other day. We got beat to got to the second round. First time they've done that in 8 years.
Well, this is your 48th task shirt.
I love it.
And this is a very comfortable. That's a good color, man. That's gonna look good on you. That's gonna match your eyes beautifully. And also,
that's what I look for. Something to match my eyes.
It's perfect, man. Nikki will love that. Hey, Mr. John's Steakhouse. You been there? You been there before?
I get my mail there.
That's what I was to say. Archie would love to see you bring a gift certificate. He knows that's like 1/10 of what John's going to spend on a Monday night when they're closed even. Hey, we're going to put you on a couple balls. You haven't signed in a while. Jay Johnson, you know who he is. Right? He didn't just go to the Final Four. He took it to the next level and actually won for us. But we're going to let you on his helmet.
I'd be honored.
Jay Johnson, baseball. John was a soft throwing lefty back in Belhaven back in the day in Mississippi. I've read all the clippings. They said you were very good. And, hey, let's put you on Brian Kelly's ball. I got that just for Kelly, but that's not just for football anymore. You got your boy Dickie Brennan down there.
I'm going to sign right here by Dickie Brennan.
There you go. Hey, that's a newer ball. We've had that less than a year. Rohan Davey, Josh Booty. We had Herb Tyler. We had a run of LSU quarterbacks on that one. And we're going to bring the rest of them on, too.
I'm glad.
Anyway, John, appreciate you as always.
I'm just privileged to be here.
Just good to see you, man. I probably won't see you again until October, right? Give me that pen. Don't steal the gold pen.
I may come here for the golf tournament.
Oh, the golf tournament.
Yeah,
we'll plug. Why don't we do that? Let's plug it. Hey, we got a charity golf tournament here. It's Memorial Day weekend. Ron and Jim, here we go. We're already plugging it 2 months early. Audubon Park. And speaking of Dickie Brennan, he's taking over all the food at the Audubon Golf Club. Sir. In fact, you, me, and our guest coming up, Jose Maruri, we all ate there the first day. The first day it opened. Remember the food part? Yeah, and they're only making that thing better. So check out our golf tournament. And that is a free, unsolicited plug. And I'm not sure if it's a call to action, but hey, if you can't come, donate and do some auction stuff. We're going to have some nice prizes. Hey, coming up next, we have the Tulane's first 5-star player ever. Remember 2 weeks ago we had their second 5-star ever, Mario Williams, their wide receiver. Well, this is the guy that's going to be throwing the ball to him. He was a 3-year player at Oregon, was slated to start this year now that Bo Nix is going pro. But they brought in Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma. So he said, I'm looking for a place to land. Michael Pratt's going to be an NFL player in a few months, so why not Tulane? And they're bringing in some good guys. John Summerall is a great recruiter and a great coach. Ty Thompson is the guest, and he's going to be here next on Primetime Sports.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At Mid-City Lanes, the home of rock and roll.
You've heard about rugby, the hard hits, the whole no pads thing, but rugby is more than that. It's this, the whole day, a whole culture.
Well, the fans bring the energy, so we better bring it too.
Every play, every match, for the city we call home. This is rugby.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. We got our basketball fix in with former Final Four coach John Brady. Now we're going to switch gears to football because it's always football time here in the South. And we have a guy coming from the West Coast. That's right, grew up in Arizona, was a 5-star quarterback there. He went to the University of Oregon, the Ducks powerhouse, certainly in the Pac-12 for years, and it was no different. He was backing up Bo Nix the last 2 seasons. They had a transfer come in, so he decided to look for a new opportunity where he could play right away, and he found one in Tulane, a team that's won their conference, got to the conference championship each of the last 2 seasons under Michael Pratt. His name is Ty Thompson. You're going to start to hear a lot about him in the future, but welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
And more importantly, welcome to New Orleans.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, New Orleans is a place where I tell this to all the new players that come that have never been. If you love us, we're going to really love you back. But how's the food been treating you? You've only been here 2 months, so I'm just curious. Have you tried anything that's unique? And tell me what you thought about it.
Yeah, I've had a couple of different places on my visit. They took me to this spot downtown, closer to campus, so more uptown, for lunch, and it was like the best food I've ever had.
Do you remember what it was?
I had redfish. They had like the crawfish beignets. You might know the crawfish beignets is like their famous thing.
Okay.
And then for dinner we went to Drago's and had the char-grilled oysters and all that stuff. It was.
So that was the first time you had those?
First time I've ever had any of that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Did you have ever raw oysters before?
No, and I don't think I ever will.
That's a familiar thing because I brought rugby players in from like South Africa and Australia. They all love the char grill, but that one time they tried that raw. Have you tried it though?
No, I don't.
You're not even gonna try it. It was a brave person that first tried an oyster, I think. He said, hey, this might be good to eat.
Yeah,
right?
No,
so you're not gonna try that. But the crawfish beignets, great.
Great.
And we got to get you on red beans and rice, jambalaya,
yep.
Etouffee. I know they all sound a little weird, but trust me, they're good. And po' boys. Now, you know what a po' boy is?
I know what it is. I'm not that's not really my thing.
Yeah, it's like our version of a sandwich, I guess. Yeah. But they're delicious. They're delicious. Hey, in New Orleans in general, I asked this also with a lot of new players. What was your impression when you New Orleans before you came here? Like, what would you think when you, like New York City, you think just vibrant and crazy. Yeah. What was your impression of New Orleans?
I mean, the first thing you think of is like the rich culture, right? I mean, the Mardi Gras culture, and then the deep South with all the the French tradition, all the stuff. And then it kind of lived up to it, and the people are nice. The Southern hospitality is real, and the food is amazing, like we said. And I mean, it's a beautiful city. I mean, the weather from January until now has been amazing. I know it gets a little bit different in the summer, but I mean, it's outlived my expectations.
You came down to Thibodeau, I believe, is where that Manning Passing Academy is, and Archie Manning is the guy, one of my heroes growing up because I was a kid when he played for the Saints. He was the second pick of the draft coming out of. But his kids, obviously, both Super Bowl MVPs, Peyton and Eli, and his other son Cooper. They run the Manning Passing Academy. You came twice down there. What was your impression of that whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, that's a life-changing experience. Like, obviously, to be invited down there is a blessing and an honor. And then to spend that time with those guys and around those kids, and also around some of the best quarterbacks in the country. I got to meet Mike Pratt. I got to meet people, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, who's tearing it up.
Wow, so, yeah.
I mean, it's a special experience. And then to be able to, because I was a counselor coach, so I was coaching the kids and doing all that stuff for 8 hours a day. And I mean, it's so much fun.
You mentioned 3 quarterbacks. One of them was the first pick of the draft last year, Bryce Young.
Yeah.
You mentioned Richardson, top 10 pick, obviously maybe even top 5. Yeah. Started as a rookie, just like Brown. And you mentioned Michael Pratt first. That's interesting because Michael Pratt, I think, is going to be a pro quarterback. I've watched him progress, and I'm saying this unbiased because I watched him against Oklahoma, and they almost beat them 2 years ago on the road, and Pratt was leading the team. What was your impression of Michael when you met him?
Yeah, I mean, he's a great guy. He's just off the rip. He's just an open, smiley guy. Hey, how you doing? Type of guy. Will openly welcome you with his nice attitude. Like, that's just the type of guy he is. I mean, and then we get to see him throw. obviously there's guys from Alabama, USC, Oklahoma, like whatever, and then there's Mike from Tulane, and at that time, you know, it wasn't as big of a name as it is now, and he's out there ripping it with the best of us. So
exactly. You know, he got offered. You know, that USC win obviously put them big on the map. I mean, winning the American Conference is great, but you know, going to the Cotton Bowl and that great comeback, he could have gone to Florida. He could have gone a number of places. He chose to stay at Tulane, and that, you know, they love him for that. And you're coming here to make your own name. And what was the reasons that you chose Tulane? And when did they get on the map for you?
Yeah, I think the Cotton Bowl win really kind of put their name, not even just for me, but nationally, because to be honest, from the West Coast, they didn't get recruited by Tulane out of high school. And then I kind of saw them gradually gain some steam the last couple of years, winning the conference championship, going again last year. And then, you know, that's kind of one of the things that drew me out here is just the national name that Tulane has now. I mean, it's definitely not a small school that people just skim over anymore. It's a big time school that people, you know, think about and think something about.
Ty, I love you said that, because it was tough asking Mario this, because that's the team they beat, right. USC. So he was like, hey, listen, it had nothing to do with me picking it. I said, but be honest with me, Mario, when's the first time you ever heard of Tulane itself? And he was honest. He goes, just the week before we played him when I was at Oklahoma, right? And you know, and I was like, so I'm gonna ask you the same question. It's not that it's a slight on Tulane, but he's East Coast, you're West Coast. Tulane was not getting mentioned. What's the first time you heard about Tulane Green Wave? And be honest with me, I mean, was it when they beat USC?
It might have been.
Right.
I mean, I've known about them since forever, just because I was an NCAA football like.
You're a junkie.
I knew all the teams, and I like playing with all the different teams, no matter who they were.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Playing against my brother, and I would beat him no matter who I was playing with.
Well, let's give him a shout out then.
Yeah, shout out Clay. Still can't see me in NCAA, you know that.
Yeah, he looked at the camera too. I like it. I like it. All right. So you knew about Tulane then, but you already mentioned that game kind of opened eyes, particularly in the West Coast, because USC, obviously, they had a little less to play for because they were playing for, you know, hopefully going to the national championship, you know, playoff before. Right. And so when they got beat there, but Oregon itself, you were sitting there at a powerhouse, right? I mean, this is a team that's always going to be in contention for playoffs. And what was the reason you chose to go to Eugene, Oregon out of high school as a 4 or 5 star quarterback, whichever rating you look at, who cares? But you were highly touted. And what made you choose Eugene?
Yeah, I think when I was coming out of high school, obviously it was Mario Cristobal and his staff.
Yeah.
They did a great job recruiting me. I mean, I love Coach Cristobal and everyone that was there, Coach Moorhead. They had a great team, a great last couple years before that.
Was that Chip Moorhead?
Yeah, it was Coach Moorhead.
Yeah. He's a great coach.
Yeah, like one of the best offensive minds in college football still. So, I mean, it was a great situation. I mean, I don't regret my decision at all. And I came in, learned a lot of stuff. Coach Cristobal eventually left, and I learned a lot of stuff behind Bo.
Lanning, Doug Lanning and Bo Nix,
yeah. Lanning, Dillingham, and then Stein last year. So, I mean, I've had a great, 3 years at Oregon with 3 great offensive coaches.
That's Bo Nix for showing right there.
Yeah.
What was that like? Bo came from the SEC, 3-year starter at Auburn. His dad was a permanent starter the whole entire time he was there in the 90s. But he comes over for a new start. What was it like knowing him? Are y'all tight, or what's your friendship there?
Yeah, that's one of my best friends. I mean, we kind of hit it off as soon as he got out there. And then we kind of stayed close. It's actually his pro day today, so good luck out there, Bo.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm excited to see what he does, because I know he's a great guy, great quarterback. I mean, like I said, we were really good friends. We would hang out, watch Monday Night Football and all that stuff, watch film together, all that stuff. So we ended up being neighbors, so it's cool.
What is the situation now for you? You've seen it from the beginning. I think 21's your first year. That's the first year NIL came around. Transfer portal was infancy a little bit. But players now, and I'm all about the player. I was an agent for a while, and I think, hey, we got to find the best situation for you or your family or what's it. And in the old days, and not even that long ago, if you lost the battle for quarterback, they might never heard from you again. And one day we're going to realize how unfundamentally fair that is. Right. When you couldn't leave and you had to sit out a full year, which takes a year of your progression. I know coaches, it drives them crazy sometimes, but some coaches get it and they take advantage of that situation. When you're going through and they bring a Dylan Gabriel in from Oklahoma, what's the first thing that you or your family chat about? I'm just curious in general. You don't have to, maybe not your specific situation, but like as a kid that's looking for the best situation for themselves.
Yeah, I think the conversation was, what does this look like for me? Obviously, kind of having that conversation with my family, and then the coaches, like, what does this look like as far as this coming year and obviously my career, right? Like, this is, a decision that I have to make if this is going to be a guy that is going to come in and have.
He's like in his 8th year.
Yeah. So,
I mean, for real. I mean, they got him to play this year, right?
Right. So I mean, we just had that conversation. Make the best decision for myself, whether that's staying or entering the transfer portal and exploring my options. So that's kind of just the way that's.
So you talk to your parents. That's the sounding board.
Yes, sir.
That's interesting. That's great. And your parents have been obviously a big influence on your life then, because listen, there's a lot of people that listen to the posse or the group or maybe an agent that they're already kind of talking to, and that's refreshing to hear that your parents are completely involved in this decision. What did Mom say when you said, "Hey, New Orleans"?
Yeah, I mean, it's further from home than she's used to. But my brother, like I mentioned earlier, he plays baseball in Baltimore, so she's flying all the way across the country to see him. So she'll just be coming this way now instead of up north.
Well, what's he doing in Baltimore?
He plays baseball. Yeah, he plays baseball. Pitches at Coppin State.
Oh, he's at Coppin. Okay, I lived in D.C. for 4 years. That's what I was curious to Towson or Coppin. Okay.
Yep.
So is he loving it over there?
He's loving it. Yeah, he's got some great friends. He's playing some good baseball, so I'm happy for him.
Well, spring practice is starting now. Obviously, you sat out today, but you're going to be practicing next week. How well have you gotten to know your teammates, particularly the receiving core? We had Mario Williams on. I know Shaz, what's his full name?
Shaz Preston. Yep.
Preston from Alabama come in, and you got another guy from Idaho. What is y'all's rapport so far?
Yeah, I mean, it just felt great to be back out there. It's been a long offseason. I feel like it's been the longest offseason I've had, and getting back out there and throwing with the guys and seeing them make their plays and playing football just is fun, and I missed it, and it's fun to be back. I mean, it's great to see Mario and Therese and Shaz and all the guys that have even been there going out there and making plays and having fun and all that stuff.
Did you know them before? I mean, I imagine Mario maybe because he's in the Pac-12 more than maybe Shaz at Alabama. Did you know anything about them before?
I didn't really know them personally. I mean, I knew Mario because I played him when he was at Oklahoma, and then I played him again when he was at SC.
Right.
So I knew of him, but we didn't have a personal relationship until I started kind of recruiting him to come down here.
He's a unique guy.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. He came on the show. I really like his style. He's confident, but he's also humble about it. Maybe not privately, but publicly for sure. Yeah. And I like what Tulane's bringing in. And that leads me to the next question. Coach John Summerall, I met him for the first time probably a couple weeks after he got the job, and it blew me away. It took me only 3 minutes, him sitting where you're sitting now, to say, oh my gosh, it's obvious why they picked John Summerall. What was it like when you first met Coach?
Yeah, no doubt. Like you said, it's clear what they're doing and what their vision is with this new coach. I mean, seeing what he's done at his past stops and then hopefully bringing that success here. I think he's a extremely energetic young coach, brings a lot of life and juice to this city, this team, this program, this university. I mean, he preaches competition, toughness. I mean, we've got the four pillars are attitude, toughness, discipline, and love. And
attitude, toughness,
discipline, and love.
Discipline and love. Okay, I love it. I love it. Yeah.
So we're strong on those things, and I mean, he's just a great young coach that has just strong, just plain natural leadership abilities.
Well, what was the spiel? I mean, because I remember he was on right when the thing were opening up. I think it was that week, and he was talking about guys that he didn't know that he would have a shot at, and he didn't mention your name by name because obviously he's not going to tell me, and it's not my business. But the fact is, he even said, Scott, we have a chance to get one or two guys that were nationally up here, and that just warmed my heart. You know, when you just meet a guy, you don't know if it's really going to happen. All of a sudden, it's a few weeks later, and you got introduced. I said, this guy is actually exactly, he talks the talk and walks the walk, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, I mean, he told me, the first thing he said is, once you get in the boat, it's time for you to get some guys too, because obviously, one of the main priorities is getting a quarterback, and then you got to build the team around that. And I think we did a good job with that, bringing in the guys that we got, and even retaining the guys that were questionable after the last staff left, bringing the guys back that were considering the transfer portal, keeping some good talent on the team.
Well, I hope you love New Orleans. Like I said, they're going to love you back, and I can't wait to go to games next season. I support all the local teams, UNO basketball, baseball, all Tulane stuff, all LSU stuff, and we're glad to have you in South Louisiana.
I appreciate it.
And we give gifts, my friend. This will be the softest shirt you'll ever wear. I'm very confident of that. And it's Task Performance. I used to have a bunch of Under Armour Nike Dry Fit. Once I put one of those on, I'd say this often, but I saw Drew Brees, head coach Sean Payton, and then the general manager Mickey Loomis 12 years ago when I moved back home, and they were wearing that, and I said, my goodness, this is the softest thing I saw it, and that's why I tried it on, but I started throwing away my other stuff. And I'm not saying you need to throw your stuff away, but You will. And here's Shays Delachey's. I broke it into two in case you just want to go for a bite at lunch, and then if you want to go to dinner, combine them. You can use it both. Nice. But welcome. That's Shays Delachey's on Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Thank you.
Which is right by campus. Hey, I can't wait to see this guy toss the football next season. I'm going to spring practice next week. I want to see a little bit of that. So, hey, support all your teams like I just said, but the Tulane Green Wave are right here in New Orleans in your backyard. If you got a Saturday afternoon, there's nothing better to go watch a little college football. So check them out next fall. And hey, like I said, I want to thank John Brady. He's going to do the SEC tournament, but also my next guest. His name is Jose Maruri, and I'm bringing him on for one reason. He's helping kids get a better future for themselves, helping them learn how to interview. I don't do stuff like this often. You know, if I don't have an athlete or a coach, it's usually a musician or an artist. But this is something I've been wanting to do when I first heard that he's trying to do this. He's got the HBCU, the Historical Black Colleges and Universities involved. He's got the Pelicans and the Saints involved, and he's going to start getting a bunch of colleges around here. We're just trying to help students get that next step and learn how to interview. That's coming up next, right here on Primetime Sports. Hey, I want to thank Ty Thompson and, of course, John Brady. Hey, this might be the most important segment because our future depends on things like this. Hey, you know what? When players are just regular students, they go to an interview, well, it's a daunting process. And we didn't have coaches, and these days they need coaches. I'm saying this right now. I needed a coach. We all needed something. And my friend Jose Maruri, we're going to talk about how he got it started, but they have a group called the Edge Interview Training Program, and here he is. Good to see you, buddy.
Great to be here. Thanks.
You brought this to me a few months back, and yet I'm going to let you tell the story, but the first moment you talked for about 3 minutes, I said, we need this. And I want to just give you the floor right now and not even ask a question. How did this Edge Interview Training go, and why did you get it started?
So my history is in medical sales on the device side. And have done that did that for about 30 years. And in talking with colleagues that were in the business around COVID time, we really noticed, and we would talk about how awful these interviewees are at interviewing. They just have never developed that muscle, and COVID didn't help. And social media has just been a killer. You know, there's just a lot of anxiety.
It's a different world than we lived in, right? We didn't have the social media to put our heads in all the time. And I'm sure I would have done the same thing. Absolutely. And to an extent, we're doing it now as adults.
Absolutely. And, you know, we talk a lot about people our age, complain a lot about this generation. They're really not skilled when it comes to this ability, but they're the most hardworking, believe it or not. They're the smartest and most capable generation to hit the job force. But they just hadn't developed that muscle. There hadn't been as much emphasis on, you know, you've got kids. I can't get my kids to answer the phone. Everything has to be via text. If there's a one-on-one meeting, the anxiety is through the roof. So it's universal. It really is universal, this effect that personal communication has had.
I'm going to say one thing on that. I watched the Pelicans post-game show a week ago, and Jen Hale did a funny thing. She was asking them all, when's the last time you left a voice message? Only one person has left one within the last decade, and that's Larry Nance, who sends "I love you" voicemails to his wife. And you know, and it was refreshing. Like, there's a couple guys that have never left a voice message in their life. You know, most of them haven't left it for years. You know, they're scratching their head thinking maybe when I was 10 to my mom. But that's part of communication, right? And this is a different era.
So it's part of what previous generations kind of learned organically. You know, Sunday dinner, go sit next to your aunt and tell her about your baseball team. Right. We don't ask our kids to do that as much now, and it's starting to affect how they present.
I didn't mention your name. I mentioned it leading into the last segment. Jose Maruri is his name, so I'm the one that screwed up there. But how did you get it started? Because you and a couple friends were talking about it, and all of a sudden y'all left your jobs and just did this?
So when you're in my position, especially medical sales, it seemed to be a job that a lot of people wanted to look at getting into. So if you've been in that position for any time, you constantly have people saying, hey, would you talk to my kid? He wants to get into the business.
All the time.
Or you have people that work on one of your teams that are getting promoted. You want to help them get promoted, family members. So we were already doing a ton of it. And the first part of what we started, the first phase, was just what we call sort of our retail business, which is people calling us. They found out about us through social media or word of mouth. And those are what we call kind of our private clients. What we've been able to do since then is find a couple of other areas that are really fun to work with where we can have the most effect. And those are teaming with NCAA universities, with their athletic departments, and with charitable foundations.
I've noticed you've done something with the Pels and Saints, and that obviously gets people's attention in this town. They're dear entities, particularly the Saints. But tell me how that came about. What are they doing for you, and what are you doing with them?
So we partnered with the Saints, who do, if you take a look at the amount of charity work that the Saints and the Pels do, it's
extraordinary.
It's extraordinary. It really is. To the extent that they have a team of people that manage just that. Just where's that money going, making sure they're touching the right people, and covering the areas of need in the city. So we had approached them just kind of like you and I are talking now, and I was talking to Greg Bensel, who's a friend, and just telling him about what we do. And a couple of weeks later, Greg called me and set up a meeting with some of their folks. The Saints, one of their big initiatives is to partner with HBCUs to help
historically black colleges, right, and universities.
And a couple of weeks ago, they held they were the lead sponsor in the HBCU Legacy Bowl Career Fair.
Awesome.
There was the Legacy Bowl All-Star Game, which is the HBCU All-Star Game.
Certainly is.
And they asked us to put together some prep work, some virtual sessions where we would tell the people coming to the meeting what to expect, what a job fair is, what their resume should look like. And then we worked the fair the entire week and did resume reviews in person while we were there.
Sure.
They also, the Saints agreed to sponsor 25 scholarships for our training. And at HBCU schools, which we awarded. In fact, the applications were so high that we donated another 10 ourselves. So the Saints essentially came up with 35 scholarships to graduating HBCU students that were at the fair. And it's a great program. We've just started now coaching those kids, and
just to be clear, this is not just athletes. This is for any student, right?
Yeah, this is for, what we always say is for your first job or for your next job.
Right.
We're here.
What a great slogan.
Yeah.
I like it.
I would say it more, except my partner came up with it. So
Which one is that? Is that Jay Butcher or the other guy?
Yeah, one of those guys.
Okay, one of the
I don't want to give him any more credit, but yeah, that's really what we specialize in. So we work with lawyers that are changing firms. We work with doctors in residency, interviewing for residency programs. We even do high school kids that are interviewing with universities for their college entrance process.
Okay.
And let me just say, one thing that's a little different about our program is that there's a lot of companies that do this kind of stuff. They're all those other programs are self-work, sort of, you go on a computer, you do some modules on your own.
Right.
It's all kind of on your own. Ours are at least 6 one-on-one meetings. And it's virtual reality or live reps for interview training.
I'm going to say this real quick, because I know not more that I'm talking to Jose. This might sound like this is a guy that sponsors a show and I'm having him on. It's not that at all.
Right.
I wish he would sponsor the show, but that's not even, I didn't even think about that. My point is this is important. Can't we all? This is important, though, for our future. I mean, honestly, we want everybody to get the best possible position they can get. And without these skills, I've interviewed many people when I was in Atlanta for Fox. We take 1 out of 300.
Yeah.
And to get yourself eliminated quickly is to do poor in an interview because they have so many choices, right? So this is just giving them the next step they should have already.
Yeah, and really what it's about is giving them enough practice and live reps to remove the anxiety. Anxiety is a huge buzzword these days with these generations. And there's a ton of anxiety as it relates to job interviews. Not that you're not going to be nervous, but when you have your answers prepared and you've practiced them live, it really removes almost all of the anxiety so that now you can participate in an interview, which is supposed to be a two-way exchange of information, not just you vomiting on the person's desk, begging them for the job. But removing the anxiety.
Have you seen that, though?
I've done it.
I've done it myself.
I do it.
Right. I could just picture the vomiting part.
Absolutely. Yeah. But that's really the bulk of the responsibility, is to remove the anxiety so that they can go there confidently and present who they actually are.
Now, I mean, even a player, for instance, I'm just saying this in the sports realm, the players go to the combine, right? And that's a big thing that separates, some quarterbacks from others. You've seen some get picked that were projected to be like late first round, maybe even second or third, and then all of a sudden they jump into the top 15. These things can help just about everybody, including athletes.
Absolutely. The value to anyone, especially athletes, is for them to be able to formalize and tell the stories of their experiences, not to brag, but because they're applicable to what companies are looking for in these jobs. And what we find a lot of times is that these athletes are not good at using those stories to promote themselves, because it feels awkward.
Right.
But really, it's exactly what that employer wants to hear. There's two areas.
That's a great point, Jose.
It really
great
is.
Point.
There's two areas employers are dying to hire from, and that's athletes and veterans.
Athletes after their playing career over, or whenever they're done, and veterans, of course. Yes.
Or NCAA athletes.
Right.
The reason is they've been yelled at and they didn't crumble. They're used to being on teams. They're used to making themselves adjust, but still promote themselves appropriately.
Right.
And for a lot of people's first jobs, that's a hard path to find.
And I did mean that NCAA athletes when their playing career is done, because it's a sudden thing. You all think every player, no matter how low you are, you think at one point, hey, I might be good enough for the NBA, the NFL, or professional. But the fact is, less than 1% do get there. So this is a landing board for them. And knowledge is power. And all you're doing is giving them knowledge.
Absolutely. We dress this up as job interview training, but it's really training for any meeting, any year-end review, a meeting with a professor or a counselor, a sales presentation. Our clients keep us for life, so they can call us at any point to have them help them prepare for a sales presentation or a review.
That's a great point,
or a promotion. So yeah, we have. We've only been in business
what if there's somebody out there right there? What if somebody's out there and says, hey, how do I get involved with this? Because I'm about to graduate, or I'm looking for another job. I have no idea myself. So tell people what they need to do if they're watching.
So our website is www.edgeinterviewtraining.com.
Great name.
Thank you. Pretty simple. We are available on Facebook. We are on Instagram. You can find us there. Or you can email me at jose@edgeinterviewtraining.com.
Yeah, I have a nephew who had his first kid, and his name is Edge. And
really,
his name is Edge. Edgerton is his name, but he's gone by Edge from the beginning. So he might be your new sponsor. He's only 16 months, so
awesome.
But we'll work it out. Hey, we do give gifts, Jose. By the way, great golfer here. I got to throw it out since this is a sports
Great
show.
athlete.
Great athlete overall.
Yes.
But the golf game still play?
Still play.
Still play?
Still play.
You still got that, one handicap?
Christine doesn't like me around the house on weekends anymore, now that our kids are mostly grown. So,
Christine is the wife, I'm assuming?
Yes.
So we're giving shout-outs. Anybody else we know we got? Because let's give one.
I'm terrified of her.
Anybody?
Yes. Christine is an angel, and I don't deserve her.
All right. Well, congratulations on what you're doing. This is a service helping other people, and that's what the rest of my life I want to spend doing that myself.
The last thing I'd like to say is it takes forward-thinking people. We have a partner in Nichols. We work with all the Nichols state athletes.
Nice.
And
you're working on something, hopefully with Tulane.
We're working with a bunch of the schools. I don't want to get into them, but a bunch of the local schools. But JT Terrell, who's the athletic director, is really a visionary. And really, as soon as we started telling him about helping these kids tell their stories, he was all over this and has been instrumental in helping us there and grow our business. So Nichols is a great program for us, and we have relationships with them. 28 different HBCUs, some other local schools, so it's exciting.
Well, congrats. Thank you for what you're doing, man.
Thanks.
Jose Maruri.
Great to see you.
Check it out, edgeinterviewtraining.com. Hey, we give gifts. Mr. John's Steakhouse.
Thank you. This will not be expired.
That will never expire there for you. And then this task performance. You've had a task shirt before, huh?
They're great.
The best.
They're awesome.
Good to see you, Jose.
Thanks a lot, Scott.
Hey, thanks for coming. Hey, I'm going to continue to remind people about this because this is something we all need, whether it's your own child or just somebody you know. I mean, let's get it going and let's help them for their future. Hey, I want to thank everybody here right there because it was a great show. Ty Thompson, the quarterback from Tulane. Hope he has a great year. Thanks for coming. And of course, LSU former head coach John Brady. He is now on his way to Nashville for that game on Thursday. Good luck, Coach. Bring the Tigers a win. I want to thank my man Will Hill, my producer. Logan Graffia went way beyond the norm today to do some stuff. Alex, Danielle, and of course Jim and Ron. Thank everybody. We'll see you next week right here on Primetime Sports.
WLAE-TV has a morning show for you. Watch Wake Up, live from Catholic Community Media, every weekday morning at 7. Fresh Catholic content from local priests, church events from our area, plus authors, the daily gospel, saints of the day, and prayer. Watch Wake Up, weekday mornings at 7 a.m., here on WLAE-TV.
The world's greatest cemeteries hold more than mortal remains. They are monuments to landscape, design, horticulture, and history.
It is in fact the 42nd anniversary of the creation of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Season 1 brings us stories about breathtaking burial grounds in London, Paris, Cambridge, Hollywood, Cincinnati, and more.
Thursdays at 9:30 p.m. You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television.